Thanks for doing that, whoever's decided to do that one. Now, let me quick share my screen. All right, now, y'all. All right, so notice here, everybody, there's a big worry a lot of times in the tech community, Mr. Toastmaster and my fellow Toastmasters, where a lot of people are being made, their jobs are being made irrelevant. But you know what? To replace programmers with robots, clients are actually going to have to accurately describe what they want. So we, as computer programmers, we're totally safe, everybody. You don't have to worry about that. They have no ability to do such things, as we all know, right? Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Vince. So true. And next we will go to our grammarian. And Nathaniel is filling in for our grammarian today. And Nathaniel has driven across the country on vacations a few times, but his favorite vacation was his honeymoon, where he flew around the world and visited 4 different countries. I will have to say my honeymoon was memory has memories as well. We were flying around to Sweden and Denmark. So that was a major trip of my life for sure. So Nathaniel, what can you please give us our word of the day and tell us about your grammarian role?
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Today I will be our grammarian. I will give you the word of the day in just a moment. That'll be part of my job, but I'll also be the counter, looking out for ahs, ums, and other crutch words. I'll be tracking those and providing a report at the end, as well as looking for very picturesque language, anything that paints a good word picture for us, and I'll provide that during the report as well. Today's word of the day is tranquil, defined as free from disturbance, calm. It's not normally how my vacations go, but I know a lot of people look for that. Tranquil. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Tranquil.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Yes, we all hope for that tranquil vacation on the beach, right? Where we can just relax and let all of our worries go away. With kids, that's tough, but if you plan appropriately, it can be tranquil too. Next, we will learn about the timer role, and Cullen is our timer today. Cullen, could you tell us about your role?
My role will be to time the table topics, the speakers, and the evaluators. And I will be switching my background to do with the various colors, like for 1 minute to 100 minute and a half will be green, and then it will go yellow at 1:30, and at 2 it will be red. And I'll do similarly to the 5 to 7 minute presentations and the 2 to 3 minute evaluations.
Thank you, Cullen, and we look forward to hearing our timer report later in the meeting. Next, we will have our 1 minute Toastmaster, and this is Mr. Torres is going to give us 1 minute little tip. Chris, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Good morning, fellow Tech Masters and Toastmasters. The 1 minute Toastmasters are educational segment in which a short tip is presented to improve communication through the use of technology. In keeping with this week's theme of favorite vacations, today's tip is to highlight the use of travel apps to help you plan your vacation. Now, I'm sure many of you are already familiar with vacation sites and their associated apps like Expedia or Trivago to book flights and lodging. But you may not know that there are several other varieties of these apps that correspond to different aspects of vacation that you're looking to plan. For example, if you're looking to stay organized, you could download an app called TripIt. With TripIt, you simply forward your flight, car rental, hotel, and restaurant confirmation emails the plans at tripa.com, and all the information is automatically transferred into a master itinerary for you type A folks out there. Or if you'd like to save money by using big data and predictive algorithms to predict when a price to a destination could be lowest, you could download an app called Hoppy. Maybe you're going to travel internationally, and the offline maps, currency converters, and phrase books of the app Guides by Lonely Planet will come in handy for you. Most of these apps are available for both iOS and Android and are free or have free versions that retain most of the useful functionality. So next time you decide to plan a vacation, why not use a travel app to help you plan more efficiency, save some money, and maybe more thoroughly enjoy the experience at your destination. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Wow, thank you, Chris. That was a lot of information in 1 minute there. I will have to look into some of those apps. I know that I have some coworkers that are all about the points, and they will do a 2-stop flight to get to somewhere just because they get more points, or they'll fly backwards across the country just to get more points. So sounds like some great apps, and I will have to check some of those out. So now we will move on to our impromptu speaking portion of the meeting, and to lead us in that, our table topics leader today will be Drew Anderson. Drew, take away for table topics.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Boy, I didn't realize how froggy I sounded this morning until I talked for the first time just now. Apologize for that. Let's see. Who can I pick on here? Max, Mr. Tran.
Yes, sir.
What kind of environment do you usually like to go on vacation in? Like a city, town, beach, forest, island? I don't know.
Oh, thank you for the questions, Mr. Table Topic Master. It depends on if I revisiting a city or if I'm trying to find a new place. If I'm going to try to find a new place, either I'm looking for a famous attractions that they have to see if I like the scenery, explore and go for it. I usually am for either the forest, mountain, lake, river, ocean. That's what I'm usually go for if I'm trying to pick a new place. However, if I'm trying to look at places that I have visited, I actually checked out the restaurant list to see what kind of food I like best in that location, to see if I like to go back and eat it. For example, I usually visit Orange County in California and Houston in Texas a lot because of the food. It's funny, but I usually just go back there just for the food. So it depends on if I'm trying to look for new places or looking for places I have visited. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for the answers. Those are interesting food destinations to say. About how about Colin? Colin.
Well, I'm the timer.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can answer your question.
Yeah, just maybe take a peek at the at like a stopwatch or something. Do your
Okay.
best.
Okay.
Multitasking.
Okay.
Would you ever go on vacation somewhere where you can't speak the local language?
Actually, I've traveled all over the world, and I've gone to places like Korea, where I couldn't speak the local language, but it didn't take me long to figure out the names of the cab drivers by looking at their license, where they were Wong or Young or whatever. I have traveled in Germany, in France, Italy, Indonesia, and even Canada. Just kidding about Canada. I have learned how to pick up keywords and how to count. I actually was stuck in Corfu during the Greek-Cyprus War on an island 300 miles away from the fight between Greece and Turkey. And I learned how to, one of the things I do, like I did in Greece, was to learn how to count and say words in terms of, how much money and things like that. So yes, I have traveled around, and I actually enjoy going to countries where I'm not able to speak. So I will thank you, Toastmaster, and I'll conclude.
Thank you, Colin.
Hey, let me break in. I would suggest everybody maybe go on mute if you're not talking, just so we can avoid some of these weird background noises we're having today. Thanks.
Mr. Benkovich, when you go on vacation, do you prefer to be more relaxed and tranquil or active and sightseeing?
Mr. Topic Master, fellow Toastmasters, when I think about a vacation, do I want it to be tranquil and relaxing, or am I looking for something that's going to be exciting? What I've found is that when I had younger children, that we would try to find places with attractions, things where the girls would be able to go and see whatever it is, whether it is the horses out in Cody, Wyoming, whether it was driving to Seattle and to Pike Street Market and to walk around the area there, or drive down to Florida. And as you can hear, we did a lot of driving. One of the reasons we drove was because I did a lot of flying for work, and I thought my kids would really enjoy sitting in the car for 12 hours or 24 hours. How many of us did that? We sit in the back, and you've got, the license plate bingo going on, where it's like a great example of fun and just enjoyment when you see, hey, there's a Montana, or hey, wait, there's Rhode Island. We did a lot of fun things, but we tried to find ways to incorporate the history of the area. When we go there, we would try to go to Monticello, for instance, in Virginia. We would go to Washington, D.C. or Williamsburg. We would drive to Vanderbilt's mansion, the Biltmore in Asheville, North Carolina, which is an incredible place. If you've never been there, it is just something, it's almost an American castle of sorts. 27,000 square feet finished inside, at $200 a square, you just can imagine how much that must cost. Maybe more than $200 a square foot, I don't know. But the thing is that it's like, there's like this entire world, this entire universe, but you get there by talking in the car, by having fun on the journey, and you make the journey part of what that trip is. On the other hand, we did fly down to Orlando and swim with the dolphins once, and that was an incredible experience as well. So going to places for the experience, I think, is what we used to do. My wife and I now have an empty nest, so we're evaluating what we're going to do. And with COVID, we haven't had much of a chance to do more than just put our foot in the waters. Hopefully we'll see what comes next. Mr. Topic Master.
Thank you, Mr. Benkovich. Mr. Torres, since you are still here, do you have any tips to share with us about traveling with children? Because I believe you have 2 or 3. Are calling that correctly?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Table Topics Master. And I do actually have 3. Jennifer's 21 and Ryan is 4, Isla is 1. The younger 2, I have not yet really gone on a trip with. As they've been younger, we've kind of been avoiding getting them out of routines. And I suspect that we'll go on trips more often as they get a little bit older. The main trip that I did go on though with Jenny was when she was about 9 or 10, along with my girlfriend at the time and her daughter, who I think was about 4 or 5. So I do have some experience, I suppose, going on trips with multiple children. That time we went to Disney World in Florida, and it was a great trip. One of the tips that I learned was to stagger your activities with your rest days. And I think it's something that I've continued forward, that I did even on my honeymoon, which was plan something one day, take the next day off, and just lounge at the amenities where you're staying. Part of that was also necessitated by the fact we simply couldn't afford to go to a different park every day at that time. But in hindsight, I think it was a blessing, because that probably would have been too much. And when you come back from your vacation, you do want to feel somewhat rested and rejuvenated, not burnt out from all the activities that you did. So I would say the main thing is to plan for the unexpected. For us, we lost a bolt that held a wheel on the stroller we bought, which rendered it useless. But we did have some extra money that we put in our budget for emergencies. So that allowed us to then rent a stroller at the parks each day to make up for the stroller that we couldn't use. And we weren't scrambling because we had maxed ourselves out. We planned ahead with a little bit of cushion for those sorts of things. So I would say, if you have kids, find a way to have a plan for things that unexpectedly happen. That's the best advice I can offer. Check back with me a few more years and I will probably have more. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. And I believe I'm out of time, so I will turn it back over to our Toastmaster for the day, Mr. Fulbright.
Thank you for everyone for participating, and those were some great answers. Drew, you'll have a tough time picking a wise old owl for today. We will move into our break now. So if the general evaluator, who is Max, could come on and organize our speakers and evaluators. We have Jem speaking today and Mark Kalal, it looks like. And then evaluators, we have Mike Benkovich and Nathaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. So, Sam and Mark, any of you have slides?
I do have slides, Max, and I also would like to try it out before we go live.
Okay, gotcha. Then then you will go first, and then Mark.
Yep, I have slides as well, but I feel I'm comfortable with the share, so by all means, I shouldn't need. Yep, don't think I need time to practice.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mark. So we have evaluators Mike and Nathaniel. Mike, have you ever evaluated Jem before?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Mike is my
yeah,
mentor technically, so that would be great if Mike can evaluate.
There we go.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it. So I'm sorry, Sam. Is that your name like Jem or Sam, or how should I?
Jem.
Jem. Thank you.
Always.
Thank you. So I assume your speech will be a normal 5 to 7 minutes.
I will go for 8 if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Mark, is it okay with you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's good.
Mark, do you have an evaluation form to use?
Yeah, it's just a generic one.
Okay.
I was prepping out because I've still got to do my level 5 ones. So I was prepping that out this week, but those are not ones you can do in a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to need to,
Yeah.
So I got to look at that one a bit.
All right. I think I made it this time.
Hey.
Excellent.
And can we get a title for each of your speeches? Jem, can I have yours?
Sure, Eric, mine is Icebreaker.
Oh.
I thought with the vacation theme, my icebreaker would be relevant.
Sure. And Mark?
Well, I chickened out on my level 5 Toastmaster speech, so I'm doing a family vacation.
Awesome. I like this theme that we're sticking with today.
That's right.
Good theme.
And Colin, did you get that? Gems is going to be 8 minutes. So we'll do green at 8 minutes. Or should we do green at 7.5 minutes?
7.5 would be great. Yep.
Do green at 7.5 minutes. Then like yellow probably at 8.5.
Okay.
And red at 9.5 or 10.
Well, I thought he said he was going to be 8 minutes.
Yeah.
8 to 10.
Yeah.
8 to 10. Okay.
So usually with that, you go green at 7.5, yellow at about 8.5, and red at 9.5.
Are we recording the meeting? Are we planning to post the meeting anywhere?
Yes.
Yes. I plan to post it on YouTube and plan to create a channel. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, I will make it a little bit more politically correct then.
And I have 8:16. Was it 8:10 when we started our break? Well, I will call this meeting back to order then, and we will get started with our speeches. Today, giving our first speech, we have Jem, and he is going to give us an icebreaker speech that also has a vacation theme to it. So, Jem, if you want to share your screen and go ahead and start your speech.
All right. It doesn't want to share now. Give me 1 second. There you go. Good morning, everyone. As some of you may know, I'm born and raised in Turkey. How many of you been to Turkey? I heard Colin might have. No? Anyone? I don't see any hands. All right. Well, then I will try to give you a little bit more background. So Turkey is somewhere between, I would say, technically as well as philosophically, somewhere between East and West. So I'm originally from Denizli, a small town on the western side of Turkey. My wife would explain Turkey to foreigners, outsiders, as where women wear bikini and people drink alcohol. So in the early days, when I grew up, Turkey was a fully democratic country with separation of powers, and it was certainly a beacon of hope for and a beacon of example for other mostly Muslim countries. So when I grew up in this small town, we had this little nice hot spring, which was called Pamukkale. The literal translation was Cotton Castle. And it really looked like a big, giant white castle, even from tens of miles away. The reason was this hot spring had quite a bit of calcium in the water that would actually evaporate and create these cascades because of the calcium carbonate settlement. So it was basically a giant scale formation on a mountain. And of course, this was a big touristic destination as well. So when I was growing up, I would see these tourists coming in from Western Europe, even United States, and I would play with these tourist kids I even started speaking English during those times. And my journey actually started with water and in these hot springs. My mom was an archaeologist. There was this ancient Roman town right behind me called Hierapolis, which was built for healing purposes. And she came to the city to excavate this ancient town. And my dad was a prominent lawyer in this small town. So that's how they met, and I ended up growing there. For the weekends, most of the time, I was here and spending the time and playing. And during those times, I have established a goal, a dream. I wanted to be a tourist like them, travel all around the world instead of being a local person there. As I grew up, I went to college in Istanbul. I went to the first American college that was built overseas, as it was a very prestige college, and I became one of the top 100 students out of 1.5 million students. During that time, my goal, my desire, my dream to leave the country to go to the United States became actually much, much stronger. I had a lot of dream and goal of coming here, and building my own business was a dream that most of my friends were laughing at me when I was growing up. And Turkey at that time was going through a lot of economic difficulty, hyperinflation that really fueled that desire. So I put a lot of effort into it. Finally, I came to Minnesota for my master's degree. It wasn't easy. New country, new culture. It wasn't easy to crack into the friendships and getting adjusted to the culture. But the most difficult part was finding a job after my master's program, because most of the companies would require a work visa, and it wasn't easy to get that, to obtain that work visa. I had to work really hard to intern and to search for jobs, but unfortunately, through the end of my master's program, it was almost impossible. And I remember sometime in April, only a month left for graduation, I was super depressed. And if I did not find a job, then I would have to go back to Turkey at that time, and it would be the end of my dreams. And during that time, I remember how tough it got. But I kept my momentum, I kept my positivity, and tried to, do the things that I would do. And one day, one of my classmates who found a job and who started already working part-time came to me with a problem. She was trying to establish a sales commission plan for their company. Instead of saying no, because there was no financial payback, there was nothing behind it. But I said, you know what, I'll be more than happy to help you. So I spent 2 days. It was rather a mathematical question. And me having some engineering background, obviously, I was good at math. So I was able to come up with a very good program that not only she liked, but also their company quite liked. And that was the transition for me to get into General Electric in their water business that they acquired at that time. And they sponsored my work visa. So that's when I realized when it gets tough, you gotta keep being resourceful, doing the right things, and being patient, and the time will come. So after I get into the water business at GE, I was able to obviously start in this water business that I built my career in the past 20 years. That led to, after 10 years at GE, getting my final green card. I was able to build a great family here, and more importantly, became a US citizen as well. So I ended up celebrating a lot of green cards, green lights, and I'm very grateful for what we have. Having said that, the battle never ends. The life is like an ultra marathon. There's always a new challenge, a new battle. right now dealing with how can we bring up our kids. We have one in middle school, the other one in elementary, and how can we prepare them for life, and how can they achieve their dreams, and how can we help them achieve their dreams. Or on my case, I'm currently a owner of a water business in Maryland. We're struggling. I mean, one day good, one day challenging, and how can you overcome those? And I keep reminding myself the past challenges, and I gotta establish audacious goals, such as growing this company, file an IPO one day, and working for it, be resourceful, be positive, and I know that it won't end as long as I have a purpose. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jem, for that great speech. Our second speech today is from our member, Mark Kalal. Today, Mark is giving us a speech about family vacation. And Mark, I believe you said you had slides, so go ahead and start sharing your slides. And we will now hear about Mark's family vacation.
Mark, comma, who is on mute. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Can you see my screen all right then? Yep, cool. All right. I know. I'm a bit froggy myself, so. Well, good morning, everyone. And I'd like to participate in the theme for today and talk about my family vacation. You know, before we get on with it, I'd like to just share a story just to kick things off with a laugh. I like to travel, and for a variety of reasons, I don't travel too much these days. But one thing, Jem, you reminded me, one of your pictures in your slide had the turkey with the little pin, on the map. And I wanted to get one, have like those big wall maps, and then where people stick pins in every places that they visited. I want to get one too, but I'm going to have to visit like the top 2 corners first so that the map doesn't fall to the floor. I'll see myself out, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we could talk about jokes all day. We're not here to tell jokes. I want to tell you about my family vacation. So I'll talk about a bit of where I went and some of the activities that we did and some of the things that I saw. So to begin with, this was a vacation I took. This was just week before last. And I went to the Summit Bechtel Reserve. And this is a fascinating place. It was founded in 2007. It's a 10,000 acre wilderness wildlife park in the mountains of West Virginia. Absolutely gorgeous. And it's the home of the National Boy Scout Jamboree, where every 4 years, some 50,000 kids just descend upon the place. It's absolutely huge. And just to put it in perspective, so I'm from Eden Prairie, and Eden Prairie, I think, is almost 10,000 acres. And this park is at least 10,000 acres. So it's just an absolutely huge place, a lot of fun. And of course, I went there with the scouts. My wife and I and one other parent were the troop masters for Scout Troop 347 from Eden Prairie. And we were there for a week, and we went on what's called a high adventure. And it's called a high adventure because there's a lot of activities that you typically don't do every day. You're roughing it, and the activities get a bit strenuous. So it's not the sort of tranquil, relaxing, get away from it all vacation. In fact, I came home more tired than when I left. So let me show you some of these tiring activities that we did. So to begin with, there was rock climbing. And Summit has a lot of big rock climbing walls. Matter of fact, they're among the biggest in the world, they say. And they range from an easy level, which is, like climbing up a steep ladder, all the way to, basically like overhangs where you have to kind of hang like a spider and crawl yourself up. Really neat to do, super hard to do. I went up a few of them, and our troop went up a few of them. The photo here, this is my son. He's just showing off on one of the more challenging ones where you have to kind of invert it and go up. It's very, very hard on your fingers, I found, difficult to do. Another fun activity was the zip line. This was really cool. This was a really long cable ride that you strapped in and you zoom like a rocket through the wilderness, over the lake, around these banks. It was really, really fun. In fact, the length of the cable, we're trying to figure out the speed. The length of the cable, they said, was 3/4 of a mile. And when you climbed in it and you just kind of barrel ass down, and it took about 32, 35 seconds to make it all the way there. So we kind of did the math, figured you're going faster than 60 miles an hour, probably closer to 65 if you're going 3/4 of a mile in a little over half a minute. A lot of fun, very fast. Another highlight of the trip was ATVing. And this is using the four-wheelers and going through these trails they had through mud and through rain and rocky rides up the sides of a mountain. A lot of fun. They taught us how to ride them, and we went on all these wonderful trails. The fun parts, believe it or not, were where you got really dirty and you got stuck and had to figure out a way to get yourself out and spraying everybody else with mud. It got a bit game at the first, but then you got used to it and it really was a lot of fun. A couple of us got stuck and did have to get pulled out, and they kind of take a bruise to your ego, but that's part of the fun too. Another fun one was the whitewater rafting. Oh, I'm sorry, hiking. This was a very interesting one. We did a lot of hiking. And a notable place was through a ghost town. And there's a town called Thurman from West Virginia, which wasn't far from Summit. And this is the remnants of an old town that kind of was built around the coal mining industry in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And there we saw a lot of buildings that were abandoned. I think people still live there. There's like 5 or 6 people that still live there, I think. But it was really an interesting thread to walk through, where this was once the epiphany of what that town was, like the Appalachian coal mining towns. And Thurman came to an end in I think the late 1940s through unfortunate events. The hotel burned down, and the evolution of the coal mining industry just kind of spelled the end of it. People moved out, but things remained. It's now a national park and museum. Another super fun activity that actually scared me a lot, this was whitewater rafting. The first time I had done it, we went down this new river, is what they called it, with these rapids. You kind of have to fasten yourself into this raft and put your feet a certain way, and help paddle when you need to paddle and things, and getting tossed and turned around and bumped around, and the guides, they kind of warn you, if you fall out, swim here and make sure you keep your feet up. But it really wasn't as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. It really was a lot of fun. But again, it was a pretty strenuous ride and kind of jumped around a lot. And speaking of scary things, there is a couple points that I wanted to make, just being in West Virginia. A couple of things we saw, though. What we're looking at, these are copperheads. These are very dangerous, venomous snakes. And we saw like 3 of them throughout the week there. One of them, on the left side, that was one that was just on the walking path. And that one, once you see them, they kind of run away, so they're not as big of a threat. The second one we found when we taken down the tents, one of the campers was laying over one, and that one called up. Their guide called that locked and loaded. If you see one like that, that means stay away. They're probably not going to run away. They probably going to defend themselves. But you don't see those in Minnesota. And that was kind of a neat to see. And that did kind of freak me out a little bit. And then, of course, the beauty of the park, anything that was scary was just overshadowed by how cool the place was. Just breathtaking scenery. One of the campgrounds there with the fog rolling over the mountains, beautiful views of the river valley, and this monstrously huge bridge that they built there. It really was a great place to visit. A lot of fun. So, in conclusion, a lot of great times. Summit Bechtel Reserve, high adventure. It was really a great time. And if you have kids, you're interested in scouting, I highly recommend you join and check it out, because it's a lot of fun adventure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for that great speech. We will now turn over the meeting to our general evaluator, Max, to talk through the evaluations today.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. We have 2 theme matching speeches today. They got me all pumped up. Please send me a message for a better speaker vote while it's refreshing your mind. Now I will call for the evaluator. Mr. Mike, are you ready to evaluate Jem's speech?
I am. Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Jem, this was your icebreaker. a speech where the intent is for us to get to know you better and to learn things about you that we didn't know before. And this hit the mark exactly on with giving us your background, coming from Turkey, opening up, asking the question, getting the audience participation. That's a great way to start any speech, is to try to get people, make sure they're awake and go back and forth. You were paying attention to the results of that. A lot of times people will ask the question and then just move on. But you came back and said, if you haven't been to Turkey, here's what you may not recognize. I thought the graphics of your slides were amazing. I had no idea that you had snow in Turkey. And then to find out that that was salt, I was just totally blown away. I was like, well, this is from here to there. One of the things that you appeared to be doing was to try to give us your journey, kind of your path from being a kid who grew up in Turkey to coming to America to staying and working in the water industry. And, you know, as someone my dad works in the water industry, or did for a number of years, it was interesting to hear your perspective and just everything that was going on. I'd love to talk more about that offline, maybe over a beer sometime. The things I liked about it was your graphics and the slides. You had great flow. I thought it was interesting to hear about the town that you grew up in, the way you got to the University of Minnesota. How did you happen to pick Minnesota, of all places, you know, to go from someplace with so much, you know, snow versus salt, and just maybe it was, you know, an attraction there. But I was interested to hear more about that story. I like your presence, and I like the way that you set the table and brought us into the flow of your speech. Now, one of the things I thought was you could work on was that the conclusion was sort of abrupt. It felt like all of a sudden we just got to this point, and where the point of when it gets tough, you have to have, you know, goals, audacious goals, and to go after that. I was expecting a little bit more of a wrapping up, or maybe hey, here's the next step of my journey, and this is the path or the direction I'm planning to go. So the last slide, I was surprised it was the last slide, because I kind of expected another one, kind of like giving me here's where we're going to go next. But all in all, this was a beautiful speech. I thought it was your life being anything but tranquil, in that you've had a lot of challenges you've gone through and stepped up to things. And, you know, it was a great icebreaker, and I really appreciated you sharing that with us. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mike. Just a gentle reminder, if anyone hasn't casted your vote yet, please send me the direct message. You can see down below, we have the chat function. You can send a direct message to me, casting the better speaker vote. Now, next stop will be Mr. Nathaniel. Are you ready to evaluate Mark's speech?
I am. Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator. Mark, I've driven through West Virginia. I don't think I've really ever stopped in West Virginia. We can see online that, you know, it's a cold state, and we can have certain types of preconceived notions. And I really enjoyed your speech showing us what else you can do there, what it means to be there. And frankly, you even touched upon some of those challenges. I think you did a great job with this speech. It was a really great informational speech. Frankly, you aligned it with today's topic as well, of family vacations. I thought that was fantastic myself. As always, you kicked it off with a joke. We are so dry here when we are giving our speeches, and you always bring the levity, get the energy level rising, so that's fantastic. And personally, I love that you contextualized the speech. For me, it worked because you compared the size of the campground with the population and size of Eden Prairie. Worked for me very well. And anybody who's driven through the Southwest Metro has seen that Eden Prairie is decent size. I think choosing the medium of slides when you're doing your family vacation photos presentation, if you will, replacing the old school slide projector that you bring out during Thanksgiving, I think that was fantastic. It's the modern digital equivalent, right? The pictures were great, nothing blurry, action. I know it was obviously you taking the pictures on that whitewater raft. Fantastic job there. But seriously, showing us your beautiful family, showing us what you were doing with the Boy Scouts of America was fantastic. And of course, you've got those mechanics down. Great vocal variety, great cadence, great gestures. The way that your frame is of your camera, I can see you just fine. Everything went really well with those zoom mechanics, if you will. So let's think about what else to challenge yourself on. And what you may want to work on is related to challenging yourself. Let's talk about those slides, okay? You know that you put that slide deck together pretty quickly. Kind of a generic font, white background. If you're choosing to use the slides as the medium of conveying the information, I think you needed to kick it up just a notch. So you could pick some colors, you can do different backgrounds, you could choose to use Google or PowerPoint suggestions on how to lay things out. I think anything would have given it just a little bit better flavor, if you will, okay? When you're choosing to use slides heavily, not just a couple of bullet points, but you're actually talking about what's going on. No, you focused us on those photos. So it needed to have just a little bit of a kick there. Yeah, that's the only thing I would have for you to work on, man. It was such a great informational presentation. I don't really have too much else to give you. Fantastic job. I feel like I learned a lot more about you, your family, what you're into, and frankly, what you can do in West Virginia, what the Boy Scout Jamboree is about. I learned a ton. I appreciate it. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Good feedback, Nathaniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nathaniel. All right, guys, please send me your vote for a better evaluator. Use the direct message, please. While waiting, I will call for the timer report, Mr. Colin. Will you please give us a time report?
Yes. So Max table topics was 1 minute and 10 seconds. Mine was 1 minute and 40 seconds. Mike's was 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Jem was 7 minutes and 58 seconds. And Mark's was 7 minutes and 5 seconds. In evaluators, Max was 2:43 and Nathaniel was 3:30.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. That will be the next one, we grammarian report. Mr. Nathaniel, will you please?
Yes, indeed, Mr. General Evaluator. Okay. Chris, who isn't here during his 1 minute Toastmasters, had a really big Chris is one of those people, he's a sales guy. He's really good at avoiding most of those vocal tics, those crutch words, but he just and continued on. I sent that to him separately. Max, great job during table topics. I don't have any feedback for you. Colin, I picked up today a couple of different people getting some right before you get to your next word. I don't know, I probably do it myself. I'm the worst with crutch words, but just saying getting into that next word, I picked that up today. Not too many times, but you did have a little bit of that going on. Mike Benkovich, I'll tell you, during table topics, during evaluation, I didn't catch anything. Chris, during his table topics, did a great job. Jem, couple of uhs, couple of ums kind of floating in there. You have great poise, great verbiage, everything's fine. And I think to myself, look, this guy knows at least 2 languages. Like, when do I give him a break? I don't know, but I'm giving it to you now. Couple uhs, couple ums. Mark, I didn't catch anything either. Some great descriptions. I caught 0 uses of the word of the day. If I missed it, let me know. But I didn't catch anybody saying tranquil. And then I didn't track it for myself. Thank you very much, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Word picture. It was coming in at the end. I was getting nervous. But again, Mark, I talked about this during my evaluation. Mark describing the campground, the size of Eden Prairie. Now I'm really curious how many acres my town is. I'm going to look that up after the meeting. That's my word picture, just that contextualization there.
Thank you, Mr. Nathaniel. Next one will be Mr. Drew Anderson, who will give us the white OL reward.
Mr. General Evaluator, I thought your food destinations were interesting. As I believe I mentioned, I don't usually hear Orange County called out as a big food destination. I want to hear like a whole presentation maybe about Colin's story about being stuck in Greece during an actual shooting war. I was going to give the wise old owl to Chris for his advice to leave room for the unexpected in your vacation plans, but he's not here. So I'm going to give it to Mike for his advice to make the journey part of the experience.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. And I think that was, I don't see anybody casting. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys casting, but I didn't receive any notifications. Let me see. We have a tie on the evaluations. So there's totally a tie vote there. Yeah. So you guys both win. For the speaker vote.
Unofficially, because one of the speeches was an icebreaker.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Then we are good on good. And by the way, James, I happen to wear a shirt that's probably matching with the speech today. I need to stand up a little bit. You see, dream fearlessly.
Nice, nice.
All right. Next one would be, let me see. Next one would be the Mr. Toastmaster, Eric, to give out the Spark Plug Award and Fuzzy Mouth Award.
Thank you, Max, for being our general evaluator today and leading us through our evaluations. Spark Plug Award. Let's see. I am going to give this to Drew today. He did a great job of having great questions that followed our theme and getting everybody involved, even though we're a little short on people today, getting everybody involved and getting everybody answering questions today. So Spark Plug Award goes to Drew today for his table topics. Fuzzy Mouse Award. We didn't have anything too technical today, but I am going to give this to Jem for his description of the water in Turkey and how it calcified and created beautiful cascades on the mountain. So I'm going to give the Fuzzy Mouse Award to Jem today. Time permitting, closing comments. I think we definitely have time today. I'm going to give a travel tip for vacations. It's always great to talk to, the people that are working at wherever you're staying at the campground or hotel, or to talk to the local people about what they like in the area and what they think to see. You often find things that you aren't expecting, or learn about things you aren't expecting. I have a couple examples. When I was in Stockholm, Sweden, it was our last day there, and in fact, it was our taxi driver on the way to the airport was the best tour guide we had. We had some extra time, so we kind of took a little more scenic route to the airport, and he gave us insight into the political landscape, as well as not just the history of the area, and it was a great tour guide. And then another one on the North Shore that I'm going to put a link in the chat to here is something that used to be called the Hidden Beach or the Pink Beach, and it is called the Pink Beach because of the color of the rocks that are there. And it used to be really hard to find, but now it's uh, the state owns it, or the state runs it, and it's called Iona's Beach. And the rocks, if you go to that link there, if you go to it, it's just north of Two Harbors. The rocks are kind of a salmon pink color because of the minerals that are in them. And it used to be not have any landmarks or any signs to be able to find it. You had to go to this rest stop and then follow this trail back to the beach to get to it. But now, in the last couple of years, since the state has taken over, they've put signs up, and it's just really neat to go to and see. And we found this by talking to somebody in our hotel one day. So it's just a cool thing to talk to the local people that are there. They sometimes have the best recommendations on things to check out. With that, I will turn the meeting over to our presiding officer, unless we have comments from any members. I guess we should open it up to any members, see if there's any other comments.
I don't have a comment, but I do have another stupid joke. This one's can be for Mike's board. It's embarrassingly bad. So what part of the US is famous for small pops, small soft drinks?
Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. So bad. Thanks, Jeff.
I use it as a dad's joke all the time. So
Oh dear. Dear. That's funny. Minnesota. Oh God, that's bad. All right, I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's a slow clap one. Yep. With that, we will turn it over to our presiding officer, Nathaniel.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Eric. Mark just talked. Our Toastmaster for today. Great topic, family vacations. It's the end of the summer. If you did have a family vacation this year, you probably have had it over the past few months. Good stuff. Any announcements? All right, I have an announcement. Everybody check your smoke detectors, those batteries. A couple weeks now, we've heard some chirping in the background. Everybody should check their 9 volts. What else? That's it for announcements. Let's look at next week's schedule. Share that here. Next week is September 7th, day after next week's Toastmasters, Kevin Borchers, who is not here, speaking myself and Mad Max Tran. Evaluations, Mark, Colin. All right, stupendous. See y'all next week with that. What else do we have? Yes, last but certainly not least, Colin, as timer, do you have a closing invocation for us today?
Yes, I do. While closing this meeting with a theme of favorite vacations, this is a quote from a famous test pilot, brain surgeon, rock star, lead guitarist, advisor to the President of the United States, and who saved the world from the lectroids from the 8th dimension. Buckaroo Banzai said, remember, no matter where you are, no matter where you go, there you are.
Thus, the end of our meeting. Thank you so much, Mr. Timer. This meeting is adjourned. Talk to you all next week.
All right, thank you, guys. See you next time.
Thank you. See you next week.